Westeros where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, with civil blood make civil hands unclean.
I know Shakespeare wasn't a fairy tale writer, but in a way he kinda was. He just wrote fairy tales that were supposed to be watched, not read to little kids at night. And in a way, Romeo and Juliet is a classic fairy tale. There's a reason Taylor Swift wrote a song about it. The Romeo and Juliet in A Song of Ice and Fire is Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. There are also parallels to Jon Snow and Ygritte, who are the characters who go over the story of Bal the Bard, which might as well be George's version of Romeo and Juliet, and it's the biggest piece of foreshadowing to the truth of R+L=J. Romeo first sees Juliet without knowing who she is at a grand celebration, but Rhaegar and Lyanna met at the tourney of Harrenhal. After Howland Reed was mocked by some random squires and knights, a mysterious knight in mismatched and ill-fitting armor competed in the tourney and kicked all of their bully asses in defense of Howland Reed before disappearing. Rhaegar went to look for the knight, and we suspect he found Lyanna Stark, who was friends with Howland Reed and known for being athletic. Instead of being a snitch, this would be when Rhaegar fell in love with this beautiful warrior woman. And there's nothing sexier than a woman in a suit of armor. And so when Rhaegar won the tourney of Harrenhal, he famously rode past his wife and gave the favor, a crown of blue winter roses, to Lyanna. Like Romeo and Juliet, they supposedly fall in love away from the watchful eyes of the crowd. But Juliet is all, "Oh no, my family wants me to marry Robert." And Romeo is all, "Oh no, I already have a wife." But love is love. So there's a secret marriage or a secret union of some kind. Unfortunately, their two families commit atrocities against each other just after the secret wedding. After Romeo and Juliet are married, Juliet's cousin Tybalt kills Romeo's best friend Mercutio, and in his anger Romeo kills Tybalt and now has to go into hiding. After Lyanna and Rhaegar get together, not only does Lyanna's family think she was kidnapped, but her father and brother are then murdered by Rhaegar's psycho father, the Mad King. When Juliet finds out that Romeo killed her cousin, she has this absolute banger of a line referring to Romeo. "O serpent heart hid with a flowering face, did ever a dragon keep so fair a cave? Beautiful tyrant, feigned angelical, dove feather raven, wolvish ravening lamb. Despised substance of divinest show, just opposite to what thou justly seemst, a damned saint, an honorable villain." Serpent heart hid with a flowering face could be used to describe just about any major player in the Game of Thrones, but I specifically think of the Tyrells and the Targaryens. Dragons with so fair a cave definitely make me think of the Targaryens. The dove feather raven, a white raven, makes me think of Bran and Winter is Coming, as well as Blood Raven, a Targaryen, a raven with white hair. And of course, the wolvish ravening lamb makes me think of the Starks. Not super relevant here, but I thought it was an interesting line. Juliet and Lyanna are both in exile while the dramas of the land play out. Juliet's plan is to wake up from a potion-induced coma and wait for Romeo to take her away with him after his banishment. Rhaegar and Lyanna's plan, I can only assume, is to wait until the war is over and then reveal their marriage. Unfortunately, things don't improve for our star-crossed lovers. I feel like George calls back to Romeo's last words, "Thus with a kiss I die," during the House of the Undying. Rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water and with his last breath murmured a woman's name. Romeo dies after kissing Juliet, and Rhaegar dies with Lyanna's name on his lips. Both Lyanna and Juliet die afterwards. Lyanna dies much later, presumably however long it takes to get from the Trident to Dorne after Rhaegar. Juliet dies just a few minutes after Romeo, and they both have bloody deaths, arguably bloodier deaths than the men. Lyanna dies in a bloody bed, according to Ned's memories, and it's basically confirmed that she dies after giving birth to Jon, and in the show specifically she dies next to the bloody sword Dawn, as Ned leans it against the bed. Juliet dies by stabbing herself in the heart with Romeo's own knife. Finally, both of these characters' love is symbolized by roses. One of the most, if not the most, famous lines from Romeo and Juliet is, "That we call a rose by any other word would smell less sweet." In the best version of Romeo and Juliet, the 1968 film, a song is featured called "What is a Youth?", which doesn't have very many words, but the bard sings, "A rose will bloom and then will fade," as Romeo and Juliet are having their first meeting and makeout session. Similarly, blue roses are always used in reference to Rhaegar and Lyanna, as the favor he gave her was a crown of blue roses, and Ned always thinks about them when thinking about Lyanna, even in his nightmares. "Promise me, Ned," Lyanna's statue whispered. She wore a garland of pale blue roses, and her eyes wept blood. So what does this mean? That A Song of Ice and Fire is going to end tragically like Romeo and Juliet? Yeah, you don't need me to tell you that. There are a few general consenses of the meaning behind Romeo and Juliet. The first is that Romeo and Juliet is the ultimate love story. The second is that Romeo and Juliet is about dumb teens being dramatic. Both are kinda correct. But the best interpretation I read is that the drama and angst that Romeo and Juliet present their relationship with reflects how young love truly feels, even if in reality lives aren't actually on the line. They had to hide their relationship because of their families, and it's the stupid feud between the Montagues and the Capulets that results in their deaths, and the prince calls them out on this at the end of the play. The biggest theme in A Song of Ice and Fire is the heart in conflict with itself, and love being the death of duty versus honor. The story shows us what happens to small folk when high lords play their Game of Thrones. Robert's rebellion began because of conflict between the Starks and Targaryens, and at least 6 characters die in Romeo and Juliet because of a feud between the Montagues and the Capulets. The pride of winning a throne or a brawl in the street isn't worth the lives it takes. And personally, me and my little Targaryen loyalist t-shirt believe that the references to Romeo and Juliet is just more support of R+L=J. Thank you everyone for your patience. I wanted this video to be out in June, but you know, I work 2 jobs and I had maid of honor duties to tend, and then I got sick. But at long last, my video is here, and hopefully I can return to doing at least 1 video a month. Can you believe it's been a year since I started doing these? If you want to help me improve the quality of my videos and maybe get more of them out at reasonable times, you can now donate to my PayPal. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching, for your continued support over the year, and I'll see you next time.